Welcome to the Cash Confident Podcast. I'm Brie Sedano, your fearless host, personal finance expert, and the visionary behind the revolutionary Cash Confident community. Get ready to embark on an electrifying journey where we redefine the rules of money and empower women to harness the immense power to craft the life they truly, truly desire. This podcast is the ultimate resource, meticulously crafted for women who are ready to unleash their financial prowess and embrace a life of abundant success. We leave no stone unturned as we delve into the depths of money management, mindset mastery, and the undeniable influence of emotions on your financial decisions. Prepare to rise above the societal limitations and break free from the chains that have held you back as we equip you with the tools and knowledge to make bold, confident choices with your cash. We believe that true financial power begins with knowledge, and that is exactly what we deliver. So buckle up, my fierce and ambitious friends, as we embark on this transformative journey to becoming cash confident together. Hello, everybody. Brie Sedano here for the Cash Confident Podcast. And today we are talking about the fastest way to get rich. And this is such a juicy topic, and I'm so just pumped to talk about it that we're just going to go ahead and get right in. So the first thing that I want to talk about is different layers of getting to a result, right? So either if that result is a problematic result, then we're going to reverse engineer it to get down to the root of it. And if we're looking for a new result, what we would have to do, who we'd have to be, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to teach you a few different layers, and then I'm going to tell you a couple stories to apply this, so that way we really understand what I'm talking about here. All right, so look, results live on the surface level of something, right? But there are layers deeper, right? So if we're talking about a financial, either a problem or, a result, it's going to be in the real world, right? I'm going to see those kind of results in my bank account or on my credit card statements or, on the balance of my mortgage going down or whatever that is, right? Underneath that result, there are actions that need to be taken. Sometimes those actions are habits, but sometimes they're just a one-time action. And underneath the actions is a mindset. It's the way that you think about things drastically impacts the actions that you will see as available to you, the actions that you will take, and that will impact your results on a very, very drastic level. And then there's even one additional layer. It's the way that our emotional state around things is funny, because it's impacted by our action and it's impacted by our mindset. And it's not a perfectly linear process. Again, just like we talked about in our last episode, things aren't perfectly linear, but it's that emotional piece. A lot of times I will see clients either spend a lot of money or not spend money to either get or avoid an emotional state, or sometimes even solve an emotional problem. And I want you to understand the layers of these issues, because here's the deal. It's that you're not going to solve an emotional level problem with a practical level solution. And you're not going to solve a mindset level problem with an action level solution. And you're not going to solve an action level solution with something else. So the fastest way to get to where you're going is to make sure that you're always looking at these multiple different layers. And that way we're solving for the right obstacle at the right layer, because the path to richness, the path to abundance, the path to, passive income and all of the things that financial freedom and security and all of the things that people want with their money, there's a lot of obstacles in the way there. And a lot of those obstacles are not in the practical 3D world. They're obstacles in our own mind, and they're obstacles in our emotions. And that's what actually gets in the way of taking the actions to get said result that we want. So I'm just going to tell you a couple stories so that way we could ground this and make this make sense in real life. All right. So at one point I had a client who was a new real estate agent. And at this point in her business, she needed to make cold calls to be able to get new leads, new clients. Right. And so every time she would set the time aside. She would set it aside to make the time to make these phone calls. And then she would stress clean. She'd be opening up the drawers in her kitchen and organizing the drawers in her kitchen and putting her kitchen cabinets away and like organizing her kids' sock drawers rather than making the calls, right? So she was having an issue with taking the action, right? So she was not getting the result that she wanted. That was why she hired me. So she was not making the kind of money she wanted. And she knew what action to take, and she would have the time set aside, and she had all the resources that she needed to be able to take the action. But deep inside, she had a mindset that she was bothering people, that it was gross, that she was being salesy, that there was something wrong with selling, that there was something wrong with her reaching out to people, right? And so she was on the wrong side of her judgment. So her mindset didn't really love her taking these actions. And then what that would do on an emotional level is when she would think about it, she would feel tight and constricted. She would feel like a lot of resistance. She wouldn't want to do the things. So she wanted a surface level result of, X amount of leads, and that translates into X amount of sales and X amount of dollars that she could buy a lake house with. And that was what she was working for. But she wasn't taking the actions because her mindset made her feel bad about that. And that created emotional resistance that got in the way. So when I was working with her, if I had said to her, well, just do it. You have the time set aside, like just do it. That really wouldn't have solved the problem because she was already telling herself that. So that was some of the work that we did, is we started to find those mindset issues and see the way that she could manage herself through those emotions to be able to take the actions, right? So I think that's a really good example. I'm going to tell you another story to kind of ground this too. All right. So I had a client who was spending a lot of money on food. Probably like for 2 people, she was spending like $2,000 a month on food. And she wanted to be spending probably about like $800 a month on food. So we have, $1,200 a month in spending that she didn't want to be spending. That wasn't high joy. That wasn't necessary, right? And so we get into it and we start looking at her habits, and we can see. So on the habits level, I can see things like going to many different grocery stores over the course of the week and then buying takeout. I asked her, she was throwing a lot of the food away because she wasn't cooking it. All right, so we start to see those kind of habits. We can see that there are certain days a week where her kid has more activities, and those days are much more likely to have takeout. On the mindset level, she thought that it was wrong and bad to pay for higher levels of support, right? So with this client anyways, where we ended up was she hired a service to like cook her dinners, right? So she could, all right, I feel like, all right. And then there's one more layer, right? And so this client was always exhausted. So she is living in a state of busy and exhausted. She works all day. She's got a big job. And then she's got a son who's, who's like a teenager who's hungry all the time. And so a lot of the choice, like a lot of the emotional state driving her decisions was actually exhaustion. She was exhausted, and so then she doesn't have the energy to cook, right? And on weekends, she's going to a whole bunch of different grocery stores, and that's depleting her energy. She doesn't have the time or the energy to food prep because she went to 4 different grocery stores. And so it creates this cycle. And so for this client, part of the work that we did was so we looked at the habits, all right, and we start to like break them apart. And I was like, all right, but these habits are happening because you're exhausted. Like you don't have the energy to spend on cooking at the end of the day after you've already been up and put in a 12-hour day. You know what I mean? Like she was up early, she got the kid to school, she did all the things. She went and worked the full day. She works usually more than 8 hours. And then she's got to go get him and do all the things. And so the truth is she didn't have that energy to spend. And so if we don't account for that, then I'm going to give her a surface level solution that's going to say, well, stop buying so much takeout, dum-dum. And not only is it not going to be helpful, but she's going to go around thinking that there's something wrong, that she's doing something wrong. When the truth is she doesn't have the energy resources to execute on the plan that would be the most cost effective. So for this client, what we did was we started looking at there's a local place where she could buy meals in advance. And those meals, are perfect. And so she spends that money, and then she spends less money at the grocery store, but then she has the things. So she has the meals already ready at her house, so then she's not buying the takeout, right? And she's not going through the drive-through in a moment of desperation. And so that client, when we really looked at like, what does it take to solve this problem, within a month was saving $1,200 a month that she'd been previously spending because we solved it on all the different levels. And so that money went to go pay down her debt, and it really moved her toward wealth, and it happened so much faster. Before this woman came to see me, she'd been spending this kind of money on food for years, knowing on the surface level, knowing that she didn't want to do it, knowing that there were better ways, but she just wasn't able to execute because all of her plans didn't include that emotional state of exhaustion. And that's why for years she tried and it wouldn't work. All right, I'm going to tell you one more story to kind of just bring this home so that way you kind of understand. All right, so another client of mine was spending a lot of money on lipstick, like a lot of money on high-end makeup, a lot of money on lipstick, so much that we're bringing this up on. And this client hired me to actually help her with her business, but she was spending so much money. She was like, something's wrong here. Now, listen, on the surface level, I'm going to say, well, stop doing that. You don't want it. Like, you don't want to be buying this, so stop buying it, right? On the surface level, the answer is so simple. And then when we looked at it at the habit level, we found that a lot of times she would be buying this makeup while she was at work, because she still had a job, right? And it was usually around meetings. And a lot of what was going on was somebody would talk over her, interrupt her at a meeting, and she wasn't really speaking up for herself. And so that would erode her sense of confidence, right? And so when we look at it on a mindset level, we can see that there are some issues with mindset about speaking up for yourself and about talking to, having the willingness to have a kind of conversation like, hey, you interrupted me at that meeting and you interrupt me and it's rude and it's not really okay, right? But she wasn't really willing to have that mindset to like say those things or speak up for herself. And so in that emotional space, she would often feel a lack of confidence. She would feel insecure or not at all confident. And then that was the place that was actually driving the habit to go buy something to make her feel pretty when she was feeling insecure, right? And so I think it's important that when we're talking about all of the ways of abundance, and I don't just mean material abundance, I mean full life abundance, right? So when this lady, when we looked at like, what are the things that actually make you not feel as confident? So she brought up the thing at work. She brought up some things at her home life. She brought up the fact that she was often so stressed at work that she was drinking, a bottle of wine, and then she would sleep in and she wouldn't walk her dog. And there were all of these like swirls of contributing factors to her feeling less secure than what she wanted to feel. And so that money problem helped us to work together to solve a lot of bigger issues in her life that improved her marriage and improved her workplace. It improved her relationship with her coworkers and her stuff in her business. And it was layers deeper than just not buying lipstick. But when we do all of that, I mean, she saved a ton of money on the lipstick. She increased her prices like with her own business. She asked for a raise at her work. She stopped doing the drinking, which saved their money. She started like doing more activity in the morning to, just to feel good about herself, like to go out, get some sunshine, walk her dogs, go visit her animals, things like that. And that is what really contributes to that beautiful richness of life, right? And so I think where I want to go with this and what I hope that you'll take away is that a lot of times we waste so much time and we waste so much energy and we beat ourselves up because the surface level solution doesn't solve the problem. And then we think that it's so simple that there's something wrong with us, that we're bad at this. And when I work with clients, it's generally, I'm never looking at the surface level solution first. Because she already knew, right? She already knew to stop spending this money on lipstick. My other client already knew not to buy takeout. My other client already knew it was time to make her phone calls. But we have to really look, because when we solve the right issue, it goes so fast. And this is the place where when I work with clients where we really start to see fast results, because when you solve it the level that the problem actually exists on, then taking the action to get the result just gets really, really easy. All right, so I hope this helps you to think a little bit differently about any money problems that have been plaguing you. So that way you can start to look, all right, well, what are the habits? What are the actions that I'm taking? And what are the mindsets? And what are my emotional states? And what's happening inside my body when all of this is happening? So that way you don't get like trapped into thinking that there's something wrong with you, you're bad at this. Even if you've had problems that have been going for a long time, I want you to know that if you start to really get down to the root cause of it, the problems ease up so much faster and you can create so much richness at a very rapid speeds. All right. Well, thank you for being with me on today's episodes. I appreciate you tremendously. Please leave a review. You can go to the Apple places or on Spotify or the rest of the places that you're listening to this podcast. Leave a review and please share with your friends. It means the world to me. All right. I appreciate you. Bye. It was my pleasure and joy to talk with you today. Thank you for listening. If you found value in our conversation, I kindly ask you to share the show with a friend who deserves to unleash her financial power. Your feedback is so valuable to me. So please take a moment to leave a review. Together we can amplify the message and bring more money into the hands of good women. For ongoing guidance and unwavering support on your financial journey, I invite you to join the Cash Confident community. Visit www.cashconfident.com/join to become part of our powerful community of women where we uplift and inspire one another to reach new heights of financial success. Remember, you possess the power to shape your financial destiny, and with the Cash Confident podcast and the support of our remarkable community, you are unstoppable. Embrace your financial power, create the life you desire, and let's ignite a movement of cash confident women who are transforming the world $1, one decision at a time.